I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back to another weekly outlook. So, before we even get into the outlook, let's start off by talking about two setups from this week. This, firstly, right? This week started off, hit stop loss pretty early in the week on the, what's that, on the Monday night? Yeah. So, Monday evening, yeah, just, you know what it is with this setup, in my eyes, it was not a bad setup at all. You know, we'd come into that daily OTE. From here, the expected move was to the all-time high. Instead, we swept this high here, sort of chopped our way down. I wouldn't even call it displacement. There was nothing alarming, right, to say that we should have jumped ship, especially after it got very close to stop loss. It actually had a kick up, then another kick up, and now it looked like it was going to start, you know, having a low resistance liquidity run to these highs. But as you guys probably know and heard, with all the war news sort of dissipating and going away, what's ended up happening on gold, right, is that it's just sort of stuck in this consolidation. It does look like a breakout, but, you know, I'll be honest, it's nothing crazy. I do think it'll just stay sideways. You know, if we zoom out on the daily, it's easy to see it, but it's very, very boxed off, right? It's very likely we'll make our way down to this low, but sort of just stay in this range. I'm not expecting expansion either way just yet. Now, the other setup, you know, with the gold setup, it doesn't sort of, you know, have nothing to really say about it. It's just part of the game, right? It's a loss like any other, have good reason. But this one got on my back a little. So not a loss, actually a break even, right? The second setup we had for the week. You guys can see we actually market enter the trade around here, right? Where I've actually put I think it was meant to be a 3R trade. Entered a good spot in the OTE, right? If we go on the daily chart, if you guys remember from last week, we were talking about sweeps on the dollar. So this is Monday's daily candle. And if we quickly go back, look at the DXY, on the Monday, we literally swept that liquidity we spoke about and dropped off a cliff. Next day carries on. Next day carries on. Still carries on. The whole week carried on. But for whatever reason, USDCAD did not want to follow suit. At first, it actually had a great move. After this Thursday move, that massive down candle, I was talking about, you know, if, you know, once we sort of get this second leg price, you know, I was expecting price will come to this OTE. Once we get this, you know, we can talk about next breakdown, we'll sweep again, etc., whatnot, right, as we do. But instead, we'd gone break even. We'd moved the stop loss to this high, which we really did not expect to go. And that is a disgusting toe suit. Price has, you know, pushed itself all the way up there, swept that internal liquidity and come all the way back down. So we got tapped out break even on that. However, the trade isn't off the cards yet. And what I mean by that move and what we're targeting isn't off the cards. So let's get into that, shall we? Finally, we'll get into the actual weekly outlook now. Do a quick look at Forex Factory first. Now, usually our NFP is on the Thursday, but Friday, the 4th of July, you guys have probably heard, is big American holiday. It's a USD bank holiday. Therefore, the news events have been pushed a day earlier to NFP being on the Thursday, ADP still being on the Wednesday. We have JOLTS and a bunch of news events on the Tuesday, Powell speaking. A lot going on in the midsection of this week. It is also the start of a new quarter, right? It's the start of a new month. So I'd be very careful trading into this week. Now, what do we expect? There's two major scenarios, right, that we're looking at, I think, with price. We have a new daily range, and I think with a new month coming, there's definitely room for a retracement now. There's definitely room for price to, you know, come back up, give us something. If we have a look at our 4 hour in specific, somebody asked me, right? Somebody asked you, do we expect these highs to get swept? For the time being, I would say no, right? I think we have to sort of just assess it level by level, right? We have an accumulation here. We obviously expect an AMD. And the question is, how deep do we expect that manipulation? Do we expect these highs to get ran or not? Now, if we look at, I believe, June, actually just check on here, saying that June 30. Okay, so June is 30 days. So tomorrow is the last day of June. So based on that monthly closure, very big down candle. how far do we expect the next monthly candle to sort of retrace into the previous candle? Like the equilibrium here is not a bad target by any means. Like, what do I mean by that? That the new month could very easily open, come sweep these highs and trade low. The second scenario is that we don't reach that. Instead, we sort of respect this 4-hour range, right? And, we sort of trade here, AMD down. Either scenario is viable. This setup, that, second one, the smaller one, would make for a much better, I would say, sort of intraday trade down to the lows, these triple equal lows. Whereas that first initial scenario, if price does find its way up here, would make for a great swing trade. That would be an amazing place for price to place the high of the month. And if we can align with that, it would just be great. If we can get in here, above that equilibrium, and price gives us that OTE, and we can short the DXY, we can very likely hold it for the remainder of the month. So therefore, as I said to you guys, lots of cluster news events Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be taking a bit of a backseat. I'm not too eager to get into the market. If it does find its way up here, approaching the news events, then yes, I will consider positioning myself. Then I know, given the scenario and the context, there's a good likelihood that this may be the high of the month. And I'll be happy to, put that risk on the table. But if we're sort of, staying here, but, the lower time frame, we're seeing a market mix sell model, AMD, etc., then we might be able to entertain some good intraday trades from here, potentially. Right, again, there's a lot of red folders to work around, so even the intraday, take it with a pinch of salt. Take a look at the bond yields quickly. As we expected, last week made a move down, which led to a low resistance liquidity run on the DXY. Right, it just gave it a bit of a landslide down, if we're being honest. It's run that sell side target. I do think it can keep going from here, right? We're coming out of a, somewhat of a choppy accumulation. I think price can kick down towards this low as well. I'd say this is the next target, the sort of discount of this large range that we've built price, right? GBP, get a new monthly candle coming. Based on, where this month is currently, assuming it closes somewhere around here, I'd say the likelihood is that this is an order block. And from here, we will be heading higher and continuing to work up to this high. What I said last time to you guys, right? So it's clear on the weekly, is that the odds are price is pushing towards this next buy side liquidity, right? This is the next sort of obvious target. I think we've got quite a large range built up, and we haven't had a massive tracement. If anything, it's a bit consolidated here. The odds are we might get a bit of a kick down, sweep below this, and then get that continuation back up to the highest to continue this way, right? If we can sort of sweep these clustered lows, take them out of the market, then back up, right? That would be the plan. In turn, that would actually leave us bullish on EURUSD, which is perfect because we are bearish on the dollar. Get rid of this earlier week. And what that would mean is, very similar to the dollar, we might be able to get a daily OTE going. And past that, we have a very nice target to play towards on EURUSD here. If we can get that OTE going, if we can position ourselves well, somewhere around here, it's not too bad at all. Very similar if the price doesn't want to give us that whole sweep on these lows. Same with the DXY highs. And we can get a trade from here intraday. We can also work that and play that sort of accumulation, manipulation, distribution this way. Right. Very similar to DXY, mirroring quite well, actually. So bearish DXY, what else can we consider, right? Take a quick look at USDCAD again. I know we just spoke about it. The reason I'm still keeping it on my radar, despite that very funny move on Friday, is because this is a market maker sell model on the weekly. I do think we can see the completion of this whole sort of AMD, right? But for now, the next obvious target is this low. We've had a previous weekly high sweep and price has kicked down. Now the daily chart isn't amazing, right? But if price can continue its way down from here, which the likelihood is that this high is going to be respected, then we will probably have a new range to play with. If that new range can give us something, before this low is taken out, we can likely get a retracement towards this higher time frame target, right? So still one to watch, but nothing amazing to sort of work with just yet. USDJPY also on the radar. You guys can see a lot of sort of space for us to work with, right? Very nice weekly close, massive wick. Daily also looking great. AM into the, you know, heavy premium, and now delivery into that discount and target. So what can we do from here? I think this range can be one to play this coming week on UJ potentially. I'm drawing a sort of OT on an OTE, get very confusing, but I'll definitely be watching this. Now, I wouldn't jump the gun on taking this sort of swing. So I wouldn't jump the gun. You know, again, lots of news folders, guys. I have to, you know, reiterate on Tuesday especially, we have the Bank of England speaking, the Bank of Japan, and the Federal Reserve, or Powell specifically speaking, and some USD red folders. So we want to be careful, right? If price has pushed up very high into this premium, and you know, you're thinking, oh, let me position in this swing, maybe it's not you know, such a great idea. Maybe it will run this high and, you know, respect this bigger high, which is still not bad. That's when it might be an even better place to position ourselves to then short it lower. But, you know, although I like this range, it's not massive. It's not, the high is not very safe, right? So I'd be a little bit careful. Take it with a pinch of salt. Just see how it's developing as we come into the week. Where's price pushing towards? If, you know, price has hit this area, maybe had like a great 4-hour closure, very big wick, 15-minute market structure shift within that, displacement, blah, 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 all the basics, right? Then maybe you can market execute, position yourself. There's a few ways to go about it, but like I said, it's not the sort of cleanest or safest area to be doing it just yet. S&P, we already covered gold, so we'll skip that one for now. But yeah, all-time high, hit exactly what we expected. Bit of consolidation. We got a sweep last time. I believe we spoke about a sweep on the sort of stack lows. We got that, price kicked up, and massive delivery all the way to all-time high. So what do we expect from here? Again, new month opening. To me, after this big sort of, you know, wick, even if you look in the past, right, the big wicks, the next months just carry on. Once we break that all-time high, you might get a bit of a retracement. You guys can see here, look, a bit of retracement, break it finally, retracement, break it higher, retracement. Of course, the market always retraces, right, once we take the liquidity. Now we've taken that buy side. I would bet that the next month will probably open, push higher a bit, take the previous monthly high, right, which will be the current all-time high, and then give us a bit of a retracement. But from there, I still expect expansion. I'm not saying anything major to the sell side. I think from here, the way things are setting up, the things Trump is saying today, he said something a bit crazy. I believe he said that interest rates should be at 1% or 2%. That's sort of setting the sentiment, right? Just showing people what he wants for the dollar. So, of course, it's speculative, but the market will still sort of price that in or take it in. So, expected expansion on the S&P for now. Of course, we expect Bitcoin to follow suit. It has not taken the all-time high. It's slightly lagging, but it's not far off. I do think in this sort of new range it's created here, from here, I think we can get a bit of a kick. What's this, a daily chart? If we can get a retracement into this daily fair value gap, and from here, the odds are AMD all the way to the all-time highs. Like we say it every time, guys. From there, we're just looking at the sort of flat hole numbers like the 115, the 120, and so forth, right? Again, if the stock market's breaking the all-time highs, the sentiment is turning into risk off, then the odds are Bitcoin is going to give us that push as well eventually. And that's about it. We covered gold today. I think, you know, just quickly to go over it. But I do think it just stays in this consolidation. I don't have any plans to take any setups on gold, any trades. Of course, I do think this low is a bit of an obvious target if anyone, you know, does trade gold. But this isn't a daily consolidation. Gold, typically, me personally, I like to swing if I can get a swing on it. But at the moment, there's nothing lining up. there's nothing that I'm like, you know, super interested in, I'll just leave it alone pretty much, right? I think it's going to stay in this consolidation for a little while. But yeah, guys, that is it for the weekly outlook as usual. Any questions at all, anything I can help with, please just drop me a message.